I'll be demonstrating how to make a Russian join. A Russian join is a very sturdy join that uses a minimal amount of yarn, so it's great to use within something that takes a lot of stress. It's also really handy to use in the midst of a shawl when you don't want to have your joins at the end of a row. So how we're going to do, we're going to say this white yarn is the end of the tail, the end of my yarn. I've run out and it's time to join a new ball, and I'm going to use a contrasting color for demonstration. So this blue yarn here is attached to my working yarn, and that's the one I'm going to continue to use. So the first thing that I'm going to do is to take these two yarns and just kind of loop them around each other like this. And this is how we are going to join them. This is where they'll remain nice and sturdy and pulling against each other. So first I'm going to take my tapestry needle and I'm going to thread it, and it's important to use a blunt tip tapestry needle and one on the size that will fit inside of this yarn. So one that was too big or even too small wouldn't work. So thread my tapestry needle. I like to just fold it over the top of my tapestry needle and kind of pinch it tightly, and then where it folds over, just push it through your needle. You don't need to leave a very long tail. And then what we're going to do is to take the tapestry needle and we are going to thread the yarn back into itself. So I'm working with the white yarn, so I'm just going to thread it back into itself, kind of splitting the plies or coming in between. So I'll kind of turn it around so you can see how my needle is inside or in the center of this. And sometimes you kind of have to wiggle it around a little bit, making sure you're kind of staying in the middle of the plies. And you want to probably get about 2 inches or so on to your needle. Just kind of, usually for me, I find that if I just fill it up with the needle up with yarn, that seems to be just about right, and it does take a little bit of wiggling in there. So once you get enough yarn in there, then what you're going to do is you are going to pull that yarn through, pull the tail through like that. Okay, so now we've got one side threaded through. Now we have to come back and do the yarn that's attached to our working yarn, the tail. So we're going to do the same bit of threading here, and we are going to thread the new yarn, or in this case the blue yarn, back into itself. So you're going to go ahead and try to get as close as you can to this, but it's not really, it doesn't have to be right on top of it. Go right ahead and get that tapestry needle. Sometimes it takes a little bit to get it started, and thread it through on this side, working your way just like we did with the other yarn. So you can see my tapestry needle goes right through the middle. It's kind of encased by this yarn. And again, thread it through a couple needles, and then I'll pull this end through. Once I pull my yarn through, now I'm going to take the two ends of the yarn and I'm going to pull them apart. So as I do that, you can see I'm tugging very, very tightly on this, and it is not coming apart and will not break. And then I will come back, and where my little tails are poking out, I'll just snip them so they are even with the yarn. And I could probably get that guy a little bit closer. And now I am good to go, and I can knit with this yarn. So I would just continue knitting with this yarn. So this join's very strong. It's a little bit thicker in this area, but it is fairly invisible when you add it. So it's a great choice for a way to splice or join your yarn. Happy knitting!